Paddy McCall stepping down. The presidency of the association, is it largely ceremonial or is it a hands-on role, and would Paddy have been in that category?
It can be both. I mean, first of all, it's a very prestigious role. Paddy's been a very good president. He served as vice president for 4 years and as president over the last 4. And obviously you chair every board meeting on a monthly basis. It's important to keep the association stable, any large organisation. And he's done that very well over the last 4 years. And there's the ceremonial aspect to it. Obviously, this week's a big week for Paddy. We brought our AGM to Athlone and County Westmeath. It's a great grassroots week. I think it's a fitting end for his presidency that we're back in his home area and that he'll get all the accolades and tributes that he fully deserves. And Paddy had a great history with Athlone Town Football Club. That's really how he came to prominence in the association. Athlone is one of the oldest clubs in this country. So Paddy's a football
man. And a club that has had an improvement in fortunes very much in the last couple of years as well.
Yeah, absolutely, with the new stadium and this season getting promoted, had a poor start but beginning to garner points. And could well.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. I mean, funny when we were looking at this a month or two ago, that they had no points, and Paddy was getting a bit of a slagging, But thank God they've done.
I think poor Mick Cook got an awful lot of harsh flack because of that.
He did. And Mick Cook's a good man. Funny, I met Mick only the other day for a cup of coffee. He's a good football man as well, and I think he handled with great dignity his leaving of Athlone Town Football Club. They've improved, obviously, since with a number of points. And listen, I mean, I know Paddy would be really thrilled if they stayed up this year. They're a great club with a great tradition. And going back to Paddy, as I said, he's been a great football man. He's very highly regarded within the game, and he's been a very good president and somebody I've been very, very pleased to work with.
Can we talk about the Festival of Football, not just what's happening this year, but the origin of the concept? What did you see it would turn into?
Well, it's funny. Well, the old FAI AGM was kind of a row over a rule change, Rule 52 or whatever it would be, and a kind of a trip to Dublin. And I got this concept of bringing the game to the people, meeting the people, going to the clubs, and spending a week celebrating the game, particularly in the country area. I'm from the country myself. I was born in Waterford and grew up in Tipperary. And the association was probably very Dublin-based in the past, no longer so. And everyone has embraced this within the game with great relish. There's now a queue for the AGMs. Next year is Sligo, the year after is Kilkenny, or Tipperary, then is Kilkenny. And what I want to do is go to the people, meet the people, thank the clubs for the extraordinary work that they do on a voluntary basis in the community. We've 21 clubs we're visiting this week. We'll give grants of up to €100,000 in total to the 21 clubs. You bring people like Martin O'Neill and Ronnie Whelan and Sean St. Ledger and John Aldridge, great football stars, probably the present and the past, including international manager. And I think it's just a great buzz and a great feel-good factor. And every AGM we've had, everyone has been a huge success. And I've just encouraged the people to come out to the fun events. We've got the fun events in Kilbeggan today, Castlepollard tomorrow, Athlone on Wednesday, and Mullingar on Thursday. And they're just great fun. And we do a DVD of the week then, which we give to the local authority and the football clubs, and they really do create great memories. But for me, it creates a great connection to their clubs. I think I've visited 1,800 clubs in my time as CEO, and every year you come back to those particular clubs, that you visited. There might be a 40th anniversary or whatever it would be, and I just love it. And I think it's for me anyway, and for the association, is thanking the volunteers and the clubs for what they do on a day-to-day basis.
But you'll always have a commercial eye open as well, so you can talk about building memories and connections and so on, but is there a commercial advantage to doing an event like this?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And that's one thing I'll be very strong on. There's no angle for the association in this. This is really just thanking the grassroots clubs for what they do on a day-to-day basis. In a funny way, Will, I do it every weekend anyway. I mean, every weekend I'm booked out meeting the clubs. I have a great love for what the clubs do. I came from a club, St. Michael's in Tipperary, where my love for the game was really put into every fibre of my body. And I think just going to the people, the Chris Hands and the Mullingar Athletics and the Mullingar Towns and the Willow Parks or whatever they be, and thanking Castlepollards, thanking them for how they build the game every day. And then what we do is we give them some money, we give them some goalposts, some tickets, whatever it is, to kind of give them another kind of kick on and a bit of encouragement to continue their great work.
You've obviously the macro picture to think of, and you had a vision to make the association debt-free. Was it by 2016?
2020.
2020, I beg your pardon. Are you going to do it?
Yeah, we can if we want to. I mean, there's always speculation about the association's debt in the stadium. I mean, just to give the figures, because when you put the figures, it actually sounds more concise. The stadium costs €410 million. That's the Aviva Stadium. The FAI had to put 95 million euros into it, and we have borrowed at this stage 50 million euros towards it. Now that's a mortgage. Everybody has a mortgage, and we're paying that mortgage down year after year, which we've successfully done. We've never missed a payment. There's always been speculation in media about that. And 2020 is a big year for us because we resell the naming rights for the Aviva Stadium with the RFU. We also have 10-year tickets and corporate boxes to resell at that given time. So if we want to, 2020, we can clear our mortgage at that given time, or we could consider to reinvest in the game and continue with a certain amount of mortgage. A bit like if you had a mortgage of 200,000 euros and all of a sudden you got a cash windfall, do you clear the debt or do you spend it on whatever aspects of your family you'd like to do?
Taking the mortgage analogy, if your income is static and constant, then you can probably make certain decisions. If your income is falling slightly, then you have to reassess or increase your income.
Our revenue is slightly moderately increased in 13 from 12 if you take out the euro participation. So that's something I mean, reporters will do what they do. There's some very good media guys as well, but one or two at times will try and pick a little angle like that. And I'll make that clear at the AGM. Actually, our income was moderately up in 13 than it was in 12. And we've got Roy Keane and Mark.
How are you on target this year? Are you ahead or behind?
Oh, very much so on target, yeah. Very much so. And next year is a particularly good year for us, Will, because we have Scotland, England, Poland and the World Champions Germany coming to Aviva. So 2015 is going to be a very strong financial year because we've got, four big sellouts. England, naturally the old enemy coming. Scotland, because it's a competitive game. Poland, we'll probably finish that with the Polish alone in this country. And it is great to have the World Champions Germany coming in October. So next year is going to be a really particularly strong financial year for the association.
Dare I ask, are there any concerts planned for the event?
I think we'll give that a miss. But it was a pity about the Gareth Brooks one. I tickets got from myself as it turned out, and it was a pity. And
was there any approach?
There was actually, yeah. Peter Aiken would have rang the stadium company because we actually had 3 free slots this year. MCD, who have the rights to the Aviva, didn't hold a concert in the Aviva in 2014, so we could have accommodated 3 Gareth Brooks concerts at the Aviva. And look,
was it an 11th hour call?
No. Well, that was early. That was the Thursday before everything really kicked off. That was kind of before. I mean, the drama since it's continued for about 2 weeks afterwards. But we did make it clear quietly that the Aviva was available. It wouldn't have given the FAI or the RFU any money, because we have our deal with MCD, so all MCD would have to do a deal with Aiken promoters. And the common sense thing to me, possibly at the time, would have been hold 3 of the Gareth Brooks concerts in Croke Park and move the other 3 to the Aviva. They talk about rigs and stages and all that sort of stuff, but I really think that those things could have been resolved if everybody was willing to do so. But we had made it available in a very quiet way. It didn't come to pass. It's just a pity that Gareth Brooks isn't coming to Dublin. Like I said, I had tickets. I had lots of people who wanted tickets.
But as an income stream for your association as much as for the GAA, would you be concerned about the licensing system and the lessons to be learned arising from what happened with Gareth Brooks? Yeah,
I think you've got to be careful. There's a couple of things. You've got to be careful with your relationships with your residents. We work very closely with the residents in Lansdowne Road. We give them 120,000 euros a year towards community projects. That's very important. And this is their decision how that money is dispersed. And we have a planning grant, same as Croke Park, of 3 concerts a year. Now, it's when you go in excess of 3, that's when the issues arise. Croke Park obviously had the One Direction, the 3 concerts, and then they wanted to put 5 Gareth Brooks and the American football match in. And I think that was probably what created a lot of the controversy. If there had just been 5 Gareth Brooks concerts on their own, I'm sure there wouldn't have been the same controversy. I think when it went to 8 or 9 extra events, that's when the issues began to arise. So the learnings for...
Still, the principle of a planning system where you sell tickets subject to licence and then only later find out if you get that licence, does that need to change? Oh,
I think so. I think you're right. I think in my opinion, it has to be a bit like us selling a football match, saying if we get a planning permission, you can go. I mean, that's not really the way it should work. It should really be, what you're getting before you buy your ticket. And I'd agree 100% with that. So it'd be clear for the promoters, more importantly, clear for the public, and for big event holders like Croke Park and the Aviva Stadium would make life easier, because there's a fair chance in 2016, I gather, that we're going to have some very big acts coming to the Aviva. And I think the public will be a bit scared by what's happened. They'll be wondering, well,
is it going to happen
or not? Yeah, and I think clarity is very important for the public now when they're purchasing a ticket for a concert, that they know that event is taking place.
Martin O'Neill is going to be here in the Midlands this week.
He is, yeah.
Any sign of Roy?
Roy, no. Roy's going to America with Aston Villa. Roy's in Dublin today and tomorrow doing events for the association.
How do you feel about him, job sharing?
I'm happy about it, Will, honestly, and I mean that straight up. I met Martin about it, had a meal with him, and we discussed it. And there was three aspects to it. One, I mean, could he do the football role? Could he do the football role that Martin wanted him to do? Because that's why he's there. Secondly, would he be able to do the on and off field activities, really, or the commercial work that he does for the association? And three, how would it be handled publicly? I mean, how would this be presented to the public? Because there's been a lot of speculation about Roy obviously going to Celtic and all that sort of stuff. So Martin was happy from the football point of view that he could continue to do what he was doing for us. He felt it would even enhance his role, particularly when he would be coaching with Aston Villa on a day-to-day basis. Martin spoke to Paul Lambert, the Aston Villa manager, as did I. And Paul Lambert made it very clear to me and to Martin, look, whatever you want him to do is for you. You just call him and I'll let him go, unless it's 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon.
So if Martin's happy, you're happy?
I am, and contractually is always the way to reflect that too. Well, you know, I mean, words are easy, but then when you sit down and we've got to do some paperwork with Aston Villa were more than accommodating, and I think probably happy and grateful to the association for allowing Roy this opportunity. And listen, I think it'll work brilliantly for everybody. It settles down all the speculation about where is Roy going, because every time there was a job coming up for the managerial post, his name was inevitably linked, and it has settled the whole thing down. And I must say, Roy was brilliant. Roy came to meet me about it on his own then, about a week later, and we discussed it, every aspect of it. And yeah, no, I'm very pleased about it.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most confident, how confident are you that we'll reach the Euros in 2016?
Wow, that's put me on the spot, Will. Confident. Well, I have to be, because first of all, I'll answer the number at the end, okay? But I have to be, because we don't appoint Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane just to make up the numbers. We appoint Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane to qualify. That's what you do. And they're two very ambitious men who've succeeded on and off the field in what they've done in the past, particularly Martin as a manager. The Irish public expect us to qualify, and the rules have changed now that 24 teams go to the Euros instead of 16. So there's the positive. There's a difficult group. We know Germany, the world champions, are there. Poland and Scotland are in there. It's a local derby with Scotland and Poland will not be easy. But I mean, listen, out of 10, you've got to say 8. I mean, really, we're a second seed in the group. We're favourites, you know, on the books to go through. The top 2 teams qualified. The third team goes to a playoff. The best third team goes through automatically. So the odds are in our favour. So out of 10, 8. I'm quite calm about it at the moment, but trust me, when we go to Tbilisi in September for our first qualifying game, the nerves won't be great.
To what extent would you sweat about the Dunphys and the other pundits who write scathing articles sometimes about managers and create high expectations among supporters that may or may not be realistic?
Well, I would say, well, in my earlier years, you would be more sensitive about things like that, because that can come with being young. I wouldn't say naive, but when I was 36 to get the job, it's a big role to get when you're 36 years of age.
What age are you now?
46. 46 now. I'm 10 years in the role. And you get far more mature about how to deal with criticism, be it of the association, of yourself. That's part of life. Everybody has the right to have an opinion on who should be manager of the Irish team. Everyone has the right to say who should be in the first 11. That's what the public of football is about, opinions. If it's not personalised towards the manager or the individual, or it's not an agenda, I think that's fair comment. I really do. And I know Eamon very well. Eamon's a good friend of mine. John Giles is a good friend of mine. Liam Brady, the panel actually are 3 people I get on really, really well with. But anytime I'm out with them or have a pint with them or a drink with them, they're entitled to their opinion as to who should be manager or what system should be played. That's what they do.
But do you think that they unduly influence the public in a negative way about some managers? Or is it all down to results?
It's all down to results, Will, ultimately. I mean, you know, it's a results business. Martin O'Neill will tell you that. John Giles will tell you that. When you're winning games, the public are happy. If you go back to the Trapattoni era in particular, the first 2 campaigns, and we were unluckily defeated by the Henri handball, the public bought into what he was doing. When we qualified, the public were, you know, ecstatic. The song we had out got #1 in the charts. And then it went downhill after the Euros. When the Euros didn't go well, you know, obviously his style of play and his tactics and all that came into play. And the last campaign was a poor campaign. So the public, ultimately, of course they want to see beautiful football. Everybody wants to see beautiful football. But even in the Jack Charlton era, we didn't play a great brand of football. We played an effective brand of football. So, I mean, ultimately the public will be happy. If we get to the Euros with Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane, the public will be thrilled. And it is down to results. If we played beautiful football and didn't qualify, well, that will bring its own consequences in terms of what the public think.
Let's conclude then with the Festival of Football. If there was one event or a sequence of events or whatever that you would not miss, what would they be?
Well, it's this week. I just love this week. Well, it's meeting the people, going to the people, the engagements, helping a club. If it's a grant or a set of goalposts or tickets or whatever it is, it's just that human contact. And I do it, as I say, every weekend of my life, but this is just a terrific week. And when you bring the Ronnie Whelans, the John Aldridges and the Sean St. Ledgers and the Martin O'Neills, and you see those wonderful images of kids meeting those heroes, and getting their autographs, and they're just great moments. And I think the Friday night for me too is also very special because we have these national awards for volunteers awards. John Sherlock, who was from Athlone, the Roscommon League, he died tragically coming back from the AGM in Wexford a couple of years ago. We've got a John Sherlock Service of Football Award, an O'Reilly Coach of the Year Award, and we've got the Club of the Year Award. It's really a recognition week for the volunteers and the development of grassroots football in this country, and it's probably my favourite week of the year, to be honest with you, because it's a positive engagement with the people.
Well, there are visits at the following clubs today: Custom Barracks in Athlone, Raharney, Castle Pollard, Inny, Grange, Mullingar Town and Mullingar Athletic at various times today. We'll run through perhaps the full itinerary with our head of sport, Will O'Callaghan, a little bit later.
And there's a social evening in Crosses Bar, Mount Street in Mullingar at the end of the evening.
Will you be throwing a few quid behind the bar?
Not this time, no. I think we'll wait till we get to the Euros if I ever do that again, Will. Thank you.